Commander Zekthor's mandibles clicked with satisfaction as the jamming field enveloped the human colony. The electromagnetic interference was absolute, a masterpiece of Krillian engineering that rendered every modern communication device useless. Radio frequencies scrambled into static. Quantum entanglement communicators failed to maintain coherence. Even the primitive laser-based systems the humans favored couldn't penetrate the field's multi-spectrum disruption. "The primates are isolated," Zekthor announced to his bridge crew. "Their orbital defense platforms cannot receive targeting coordinates. Their ground forces cannot call for support. Victory is inevitable." The invasion force descended upon the mining colony of New Pittsburgh with overwhelming confidence. 12 Krillian warships, each capable of glassing a continent, moved into position above the settlement of 40,000 humans. The Krillians had studied humanity's military doctrine extensively. Without communications, human forces became disorganized, panicked, easy prey. On the ground, Captain Sarah Chen watched her command tablet flicker and die. Around her, 200 Marines checked their weapons with grim determination. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and now completely cut off from the orbital defense platforms that represented their only hope of survival. "Captain, all comms are dead," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with tension. "Can't reach anyone beyond visual range." Sarah nodded slowly, her mind racing through possibilities. The Krillians had done their homework, that much was clear. They jammed everything from simple radio to cutting-edge quantum systems. Every modern form of communication humanity had developed in 4 centuries of space. Exploration had been rendered useless in a single stroke. Almost every form. "Rodriguez, do we still have the signal lamps from the emergency kit?" Sarah asked suddenly. "The what, ma'am?" "The handheld signal lamps. Manual battery-powered. They should still work even if the electronics are fried." Rodriguez blinked in confusion but moved to check. Moments later, he returned with a rectangular device that looked ancient compared to their usual gear. "Got one, Captain. But what good is a flashlight going to do against their jamming?" Sarah allowed herself a tight smile. "Lieutenant, how's your Morse code?" On the bridge of his flagship, Zekthor monitored the human forces with predatory interest. They were scrambling, attempting various communication methods, all failing as expected. Their orbital platforms remained silent, their targeting systems unable to receive ground-based coordinates. The humans would have to face the invasion with only their ground forces, a battle they could not possibly win. Then something unusual appeared on the sensors. "Commander," one of his officers reported, confusion evident in her tone. "We're detecting a light source from the human position. Visible spectrum. It appears to be blinking?" Zekthor's mandibles spread in what might have been laughter. "They're reduced to signaling with lights? How delightfully primitive. Pay it no mind. Prepare ground forces for landing." What Zekthor didn't know, what no Krillian intelligence analyst had ever thought to research, was that humanity had a peculiar relationship with its obsolete technologies. While other species discarded old methods entirely when superior ones emerged, humans maintained them out of a mixture of nostalgia, superstition, and sheer stubbornness. Military academies still taught Morse code, not because anyone expected to use it, but because tradition demanded it. 400 kilometers above the planet's surface, Ensign Marcus Webb sat at his station aboard the orbital defense platform Gettysburg, frustrated by his inability to communicate with the ground. Every modern system was useless. He'd been reduced to passive observation, watching helplessly as the alien fleet positioned itself for invasion. Then he saw it. A light, blinking in a deliberate pattern from the Marine position. Webb stared at the screen, his mind initially rejecting what his eyes were telling him. Then training kicked in, training in a communication method he'd learned as a curiosity, never expecting to actually use it. ... SOS. His hands flew across his manual backup console, the purely mechanical system that wasn't susceptible to electronic jamming. He began translating as more signals came through. ... Core. No, not core. Coordinates. They were sending coordinates in Morse code, using a method of communication that predated spaceflight by over 2 centuries. A method so ancient that the aliens hadn't even considered it when designing their jamming systems. Webb's fingers worked frantically, entering the coordinates into the Gettysburg's targeting computer. The orbital railgun could fire without electronic commands from the ground. It just needed to know where to aim. And now, thanks to a signaling method invented in the 1830s, it did. Firing solution locked, Webb reported to his commanding officer. Coordinates received via optical Morse code, sir. The captain of the Gettysburg stared at him for a moment, then burst into laughter. Morse code, of course. Arm the railgun. Prepare to fire on my mark. On the ground, Sarah watched the Krillian ships begin their landing sequence. She'd sent the coordinates 3 times, praying someone was watching, someone remembered their academy training. If not, the next few minutes would be her last. Then the sky lit up. The Gettysburg's railgun fired, sending a tungsten rod the size of a telephone pole screaming through the atmosphere at 7 kilometers per second. It struck the lead Krillian warship with the force of a small nuclear weapon, punching clean through its shields and armor as if they were paper. The ship exploded in a brilliant fireball. Before Zekthor could react, before he could even begin to understand what had happened, 2 more shots followed in rapid succession. 2 more warships became expanding clouds of debris. How? Zekthor roared at his bridge crew. The jamming is absolute. How are they coordinating? No one had an answer. The Krillians had accounted for every form of modern communication. They had not accounted for a species stubborn enough to remember how their ancestors talked to each other, with simple flashes of light. Sarah continued signaling, calling down coordinates for each enemy ship. The orbital platforms, freed from their electronic silence by a technology older than spaceflight itself, rained destruction upon the invasion fleet. One by one, the Krillian warships fell. Zekthor ordered a retreat, his remaining ships fleeing into faster-than-light travel pursued by railgun fire. The invasion had lasted less than an hour. In the aftermath, as rescue ships arrived and communications were restored, Sarah found herself trying to explain to a rear admiral how Morse code had saved the colony. Captain Chen, the admiral said, shaking his head in amazement. You just won a battle using a communication method invented before we even had radio. The Xenoanthropology Corps is going to have a field day with this. Sarah shrugged, exhaustion finally catching up with her. Sir, humans have a saying, if it's stupid but it works, it isn't stupid. I suppose not, Captain. I suppose not. Across the galaxy, the story spread. The species that had jammed humanity's communications, that had isolated them completely, had been defeated by a method of signaling using light that was nearly 500 years old. Military strategists scrambled to update their jamming technologies to account for optical signaling. Intelligence agencies began studying human history with renewed concern, wondering what other obsolete technologies humans might resurrect in a crisis. But the humans themselves simply added another chapter to their military doctrine, right next to the one about never giving up, never surrendering, and always, always keeping a backup plan, even if that backup plan involved dots and dashes flickering in the darkness. A simple code that had once connected telegraph operators across Earth, now connecting desperate soldiers to orbital weapons platforms above alien worlds. Humanity had proven once again that they were at their most dangerous when they were underestimated, and that sometimes the old ways were the best ways.